You mentioned Test Pilot School. I actually didn't go to Test Pilot School. I went to Aerospace Research Pilot School. We all called it TPS back then. In fact, if you said ARPS, you had to excuse yourself afterward. But it was called TPS, and nobody ever noticed the difference. ARPS, excuse me, actually began at Edwards in 1961, the end of 1961, and the F-104 showed up in the beginning of 1962. The two programs were inescapably joined. We wanted to teach near space flying at the time, and the F-104 was the thing that would do it. The F-104 was suitable for a school also because it didn't use a lot of gas. I think max gross weight, if you had everything hanging on it, was like about 22,000 pounds. And it only had 5,000 pounds of internal fuel. And if you wanted to go faster than Mach 1.5, you couldn't have anything hanging on the outside. So the missions were necessarily short, especially the ones where we were going up. In fact, usually you got to the top and you were minimum fuel. But the good news was you had a lot of potential energy. They had a Rocketdyne LR-121-NA-1 rocket motor, and they were redesignated the NF-104. The installed J-79 engine generated 15,000 pounds of thrust, which was pretty handy if you only weighed 20,000 pounds, right? In afterburner, and burned JP4. The LR-121 produced 6,000 pounds more of thrust and burned a combination of JP4 and 90% hydrogen peroxide. Rocket motor burn time was on the order of 90 seconds. It also had a 2-axis reaction control. Okay, the NF-104A, in the picture there, the third picture down, that Larry flew and I didn't, it went to 120,800 feet on 6 December 1963. That was at the time a world record. It wasn't an official world record because they didn't follow the official procedures, but it wasn't even close. Major Robert K. Smith was the pilot, and he started his zoom flight from 37,000 feet in Mach 2.4. Those of you who are really sharp on the F-104 know that its limit speed was Mach 2.2. And we're test pilots. We get to fly what the hell we want, right? And what happens when you get out there is that, an interesting thing about the F-104 cockpit, there's a big red light right here on the canopy rail, right in front of you. It says turbine inlet over temp, which is why you had to stay at Mach 2.2. And they would get up there with that beauty flashing at you, and that's when they would pull up. That's when he did. He went from 37,000 in Mach 2.4. This aircraft, number 560760, now sits on a pole in front of TPS, not ARPS. Of the other two, one was severely damaged by an explosion in the rocket motor and discontinued in service. The other one was lost by ARPS Commandant, Colonel Chuck Yeager, on 10 December 63, just 4 days after the world record was set. My intuition is Chuck, being the ultimate fighter pilot and competitor, was going to break that record 4 days later. 101,500 feet, and rode that spin down to 8,500 feet before he bailed out. Students did not get to fly the NF-104 until 1968 because of that demonstrated danger. I mean, if the world's greatest fighter pilot gets it in a spin, What's a student? On 15 June 64, another F-104A was lost in the zoom with ARPS student Navy Lieutenant Patrick Henry Jr. at the controls. He got into a spin at 83,000 feet. He's going without the rocket, so you don't quite get so high. 83,000 feet, safely ejected. He was on his 5th zoom flight. So these guys got to fly more than we did. I only got 2. Larry? 2. They were kind of hazardous. There was also a student fatality, an F-104C aircraft loss on 22 November 68. Major Kermit Hatterley, class 68A, apparently had a glove become disconnected from his pressure suit about 65,000 feet. I'm going to tell you something you don't really need to know, but you've got 2 pressure systems going for you. You got the aircraft pressurization system, which is not nearly airtight, and you've got a full pressure suit, which is airtight. And that pressurization system in the aircraft is not designed to go to 65,000 feet, and so the internal pressure in there is pretty low. Your actual pressure suit inflates like a balloon as the pressure gets lower in the cockpit. And at 65,000 feet, he hit the mic switch and said, "My glove came off." And it probably blew off. I mean, poof. At which time he had, well, if it had been totally ambient air pressure, he would have had 2 or 3 seconds time useful consciousness before his blood begins to boil. So he was dead right then. He managed to get off the call that he'd lost his glove and actually had another radio call that was kind of unintelligible. The aircraft itself, he was supposed to be coming out of burner at 65,000 feet, but he got busy with the glove thing, and the aircraft itself slowly rolled inverted and then started to descend. They never came out of burner. The aircraft went to about Mach 3 before it disintegrated. And pieces of his airplane were all over the desert, and I'm not sure that they found enough pieces of him to figure out which glove it was or anything. But it was a fairly hazardous mission. I was in the last class of ARPS, class 73A, because of a very bad cold. I was the last one to fly this final Zoom mission on 30 November 73, 49 years ago today. And now I'm going to give the floor to General Fortner, who actually flew in the rocket, and he's going to tell you about the thrill. He's got the fun part of the briefing here.
Flight, and I'll go back and talk about anything you want to talk about, what you got to do for takeoff. But anyway, take off, head out to the east, to the border, and climb to 36,000 feet. Turn around and say, okay, I'm activating the high-speed corridor, and push the power up, and I get out to about 0.96 Mach, and I flip on the rocket engine to get me through the area where it has high drag on F-104, and it kind of takes it a while to get through and out to 1.1 Mach. And so I leave it on until I get out to about 1.1 Mach, and I turn the rocket engine back off. Now I'm in full burner, headed out, and as I get out to about 1.5 Mach, I start a descent because I want to get into T2 reset in the F-104 engine, which locks the engine up, and you can't get it below 97%. After that, when that engine goes into T2 reset, it's a Hummer. The airplane is a Hummer. It's going now. And so you get it, by descending, I get into that faster, and then I come back up to 36,000 feet. Okay, so now I'm looking for 2.2 Mach, and I get that flashing light that he's talking about. And as I get the flashing light, I start my pull, I reactivate the rocket engine. Now I got both engines going as fast as I can possibly get them going, and get that airplane going. So, the one thing I didn't say in calculating what we're going to do, if you look at that picture, it says I climbed at 39 degrees, but the other things, the trackers are probably exactly right. I pulled to 43 degrees on my attitude indicator, and that's what I was trying to hold, is 43 degrees in the climb. So humming along, I get to 65,000 feet. As I approach 65,000 feet, the engine temperature is going up till it hits the red line. As it gets on the red line, I start backing off on a power and keep backing off and to keep it there. And at about 65, maybe a little above that, I've got to shut the engine down to keep it from over-temping, because the amount of air coming in doesn't match the fuel anymore, and the fuel control can't keep up with it. I have to go into a few things. So anyway, I'm shut down now on the rocket, on the jet engine. I still got the rocket engine going, and it takes me up to close to 90,000 feet, and then that 90 seconds of fuel is gone. So now I'm a bullet, just out there by myself, zicking along. So my next thing I have to watch out for is alpha, below 7 degrees. And I've got the jets. Okay, I switched these controls aren't very good anymore down here. So I switch over here. I've got a handle in the center of the instrument panel that controls the jets in the wings and in the nose. And so I start tweaking the nose down as I'm coming up there to keep alpha at 7 degrees. And that's my primary thing right now, is keeping alpha down, because if you don't keep alpha down, you're liable to be in that spin that they talk about. So, and I get up there and I'm going over the top, working my jets in the nose to keep alpha down, and as I hit the top, I'm actually above the Mach, but I'm down to just above 100 knots at that point, and that's above the Mach at that point. But so while I'm trying to monitor all that, I decided I have my one chance to look up. And this whole flight, you're in the cockpit and you got something to check all the time in this. But I say, okay, I'm pretty stable up here. I got below 7 and I'm good. I look up. We're headed to the west, so I can see the whole California coast, the ocean. I can see the curvature of the earth. I'm black up above me. You're already in that regime. You actually get in that regime pretty far down from that. But I'm up there where I'm really kind of space type stuff. Anyway, I'm still keeping the nose down, and then I nose over and start down. And now I'm working with the jets, and as I get down to below 90,000, close to somewhere between 90, and I got some feel in these other controls, the jets, and go back to my normal controls. So my next big thing is I need to start my jet engine at some point, unless I want to do a dead stick. And I'm keeping things where they are, and I'm gliding right on down. And when I hit 50,000 feet, I'm doing all the things I need to do, and check everything that I need to know about where I'm at, so that when I hit 50,000, I can hit the restart button and bring the throttle around, and then you sit there and you watch for a while. Is it going to restart or isn't it? Now I'm below 50,000. Edwards is right over here, the runway, and so I start my turn, and I'm just right north of the airfield, and that's all. This is designed to put me right there, so that if it doesn't start, I can come over the runway and do a dead stick around. And so, but everything is working right. The engine restarts. I come over the field at 35,000 feet over the runway, and I start. I pull. Once the engine starts, I pull it back to idle, and I just leave it there at idle, and I do the whole flight as if I didn't get a restart, so that if I do this again, I'm practicing what I would have to do. So anyway, I do that and come around and make my landing, and I look at the clock, and I've been up for about 30 minutes. My butt off the whole 30 minutes.
And I would like to say there are a bunch of people who want to be test pilots, and several who are, and a lot of the flight test community. Being a test pilot is not done to generate adrenaline. Your job as a test pilot is going to be the interpreter between the design engineer and the user pilot. And both languages, you need to be conversant in both. So you have to be an expert pilot and a pretty damn good engineer. So it's more work than this would have you believe. And so you have to fly with a calm precision and not a ball of fire. That's all I've got, John. Time? You want to?